Good day everyone. So I am one of the reporter of Group 8 and we will talk about educational goals, standard, and objectives. So what is educational goal? Goals are general statement about desired learner outcomes in a given year or during the duration of a program. So educational goals, these are the statements, describing the skills, the attributes, and the competencies that students should have while pursuing a course or a program. So educational goals state what the teacher or the student wishes to achieve in that year. Next is, what is educational standards? So the standards are specific statements about what learners should know and are capable of doing at a particular level, subject, or course. So educational standard, these are the learning standards which are very concise, are written descriptions of what students are expected to know and be able to stage of their be able to do at the stage of their education. So educational standard helps teachers ensure that their students have the skills and knowledge they need to be successful by providing clear goals for student learning. So there are 4 types of student educational standard. So these are the content, performance, developmental, and grade level. So this content is a desired outcome in a content area, while the performance is what student to do to demonstrate competence. Next is developmental, which is a sequence of growth and change over time. Lastly, grade level, outcomes for specific grade. So the content or the content area means the school subjects like English, Filipino, math, science. These identify and set the essential knowledge and understanding that should be learned by the learners. In the performance, it's very understandable that in performance, the students should act or perform to demonstrate competence in their studies. So this describes the abilities and skills that learners are expected to demonstrate in relation to the content standards and integration of 21st century skills. Developmental, so this refers to the knowledge and understanding and the skills, the attitudes that learners need to demonstrate in every lesson and in learning activity. Next is the grade level. So this defines what students should understand and be able to do by the end of each grade. So together, they define the skills and understandings that all students must demonstrate in order to be college and career ready. What is educational objectives? So educational objectives are specific statements of learner performance at the end of an instructional unit, referred to as behavioral objectives, and the most popular taxonomy of education objectives is Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. So educational objectives are the expressions of what the teacher hopes for his or her students that can accomplish as a result for his or her teaching. So educational objectives or learning outcomes are the statements that clearly describes what the learner will know or be able to do as a result of having attended an educational program or activity. Educational objectives must be observable and measurable. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. So I won't explain furthermore because we already talked about this and we all know the Bloom's taxonomy of education objectives. We will go to analysis, interpretation, and use of test data. So this is part of lesson 8. Desired significant learning outcomes. In this lesson, you are expected to analyze, interpret, and use test data in applying A. Measures of central tendency, B. Measures of variable, C. Measures of position, and D. Measures of covariability. Significant culmination, performance tasks, and success indicators. So at the end of this lesson, you are expected to analyze test scores using the measures of central tendency, variability, position, and covariability. Understanding of these measures is helpful to know how to improve teaching and learning. Your success in this performance task will be determined if you have done the following. So these are the tasks and its success indicators. Calculate the mean, median, and mode of test scores from a given set of test scores. Success indicator from own and actual set of test data. Compute at least 2 measures of central tendency in 2 ways. Task, write a general statement of interpretation from computed mean, median, and mode of test data and the relationship of the 3 measures and the shape of skewness of the test distribution of scores. Success indicator, give at least 3 interpretation statements of your own test work output aligned with the assessment objectives. Next, identify the level of measurement for a given variable. So the success indicator, explain in a statement or two the level of measurement and applies to variable measured by your own test data. Next, explain the concept of variability on test result and calculate the different measures of variability. From own test data sheet, compute the standard deviation and give a statement or two to describe the test results on the basis of such measure. Next, explain how measures of variability relate to skewness and kurtosis of frequency polygon of test data. Success indicator, present empirical evidence of how measure of variation affects the shape of frequency polygon of test scores. Next is determine the different measures of position and apply the different measures of position in interpreting test scores in a distribution. Convert raw scores in standard scores, and its success indicator, use standard scores to compare 2 scores in a distribution in at least 2 practical and real teaching learning situations. Lastly, determine the measures of covariability between the 2 tests. From a given test data, compute the occurrence of covariability of 2 test scores. So the prerequisite of this lesson. The discussions in this lesson will build upon the concepts and examples presented in Lesson 7, which focused on the tabular and graphical presentation and interpretation of test results. In this lesson, other ways of summarizing test data using descriptive statistics, which provides a more precise means of describing a set of scores, will be discussed. The word measures is commonly associated with numerical and quantitative data. Hence, the prerequisite to understanding the concepts contained in this lesson is your basic knowledge of mathematics. So the summation of values, the simple operations on integers, squaring and finding square roots, etc. Descriptive statistics are brief information coefficients that summarize a given data set, which can be either a representation of the entire population or a sample of population. So the descriptive statistics are broken down into measures of central tendency and measures of variability. So this helps the analyst to understand the data better. What are the measures of the central tendency? The word measures of central tendency means that the central location or point of convergence of a set values. test scores have a tendency to converge at a central value. This value is the average of the set of scores. In other words, a measure of central tendency gives a single value that represents a given set of scores. So the three commonly used measures of central tendency or measures of central location are the mean, median, and mode. So in statistics, a central tendency is a central or the typical value for probability distribution. So measures of central tendency are often called averages. Measures of central tendency help me find the middle or the average of a data set. And the three most common measures of central tendency are the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mode is the most frequent value, the median is the middle number in an ordered data set, and the mean is the sum of all values divided by the total number of values. So now we will talk about the mean and how to get the mean. So the mean is the most preferred measure of the central tendency for use with test scores, and mean is also referred to as the arithmetic mean. So the computation is very simple. When a student has added up the examination scores he or she made in a subject during the grading period and divided it by the number of examinations taken, then he or she has computed the arithmetic mean. That is, mean equals to the summation of x divided by n. So the x here is the mean, and so the summation of all scores, this one, and n is the number of scores in the set. So consider again the test scores of students given in table 8.1, which is the same set of test scores used in a previous lesson. So this is the table 8.1, which are the scores of 100 college students in the final examinations. The mean is the sum of all the scores from 53 down to the last score, which is 35. So to get the mean, that is, mean is equals to the summation of x divided by n is equals to 53 plus 36 plus 57 plus so on and so forth to 60 plus 49 plus 35. The last is 35. You have many ways of computing the mean. The traditional long computation technique have outlived their relevance due to advancement of technology and the emergence of statistical software. So we use, or the teacher used advanced technology, which are the statistical software, instead of the manual computation of the mean. So using your scientific calculator, you will see the symbols x and the summation of x. Just follow the simple steps indicated in the guide. There are also simple steps in Excel. The different versions of the statistical software, SPSS, offer the fastest way of obtaining mean. So there are many ways of obtaining or computing the mean using the statistical software. And an example of a statistical software is in Excel or the SPSS. They offer the fastest way in computing the mean. Even with hundreds of scores in a set, there is no loss of original information because you are dealing with original individual scores. The use of statistical software will be explained later. While we recognize the power of technology, there is information that is unappreciated because of a shorthand processing data through mechanical computations. Look at the conventional way of presenting data in a frequency distribution table as done in Lesson 7. Here in Table 8.2, frequency distribution group of test scores. So the class interval, the midpoint, f, x, I, and f, cumulative frequency, and cumulative percentage. So to get the midpoint, so the midpoint of 75 and 80 in the class interval, which is 77, so that is the midpoint. The midpoint of 70 and 74 class interval is 72, 65 and 69, 67, 60 and 64, 60 which is 62, the midpoint of 55 and 59 is 57, and the midpoint of 52, 54 is 52. So in the middle. To get the frequency, you have to subtract the upper part of the cumulative frequency to its lower part number, which is the 97. So 100 minus 97 is equals to 3. And next is 97 minus 97 is 0. Next is 97 minus 95 is 2. And then 95 minus 87 is 8. And 87 minus 79 is also 8. So on and so forth. To get the XIF, you have to multiply the midpoint and the frequency. So 77 times 3 is 231. 72 minus times 0 is 0. 67 times 2 is 134. 62 times 8 is 496. 57 times 8 is 456. And 52 times 17 is 884. Next is to get the cumulative frequency. You have to subtract the cumulative frequency 100 to the frequency 3. So 100 minus 3 is 97. 97 minus 0 is 97. 97 minus 2 is 95. 95 minus 8 is 87. And 87 minus 8 is 79. And so on. So that is the table 2 frequency distribution of the group test scores. In the traditional way, it cannot be argued that you can see at a glance how the scores are distributed among the range of values in a condensed manner. Condensed is more concise and concentrated. You can even estimate the average of the scores by looking at the frequency in each class interval. In the absence of statistical program, the mean can be computed with the following formula. So this is the formula of the mean, where x is the midpoint of the class interval, f is the frequency of each class interval, n is the total frequency. Thus, the mean of the test scores in table 7.1 is calculated as follows. So the mean is equals to the summation of XIF divided by n is equals to 4,720. So it divided by 100 is equals to 47.2. The easiest way to use SPSS by simply following these steps. So if you have a software called SPSS, you can just follow these steps to use in obtaining the mean. So open the data editor window. It is understood you have prepared the dataset earlier. Number 2 is on the menu bar, click analyze, then descriptive statistic, then frequencies. This opens the frequencies dialog box. So here is the picture of how you do it in SPSS software. The next is press continue on the descriptive option box, then press OK on the left descriptive box, and you will finally see the following image. Descriptive variables is equals to the scores divided by statistics equals to mean STDD MIN max. So here is the table of descriptive statistics. Look again at the earlier computation of the mean for test scores presented in table 8.2. It is 47.2. So in the now compare it 47.2. Now compare it with the computed mean indicated in the fifth column. Round it off to the nearest tenth. What did you find out with the mean? So if we go to descriptive statistics and go to the indicated fifth column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 47.1500, and if we round it off, it will become 47.2. Therefore, our computation using the given formula and SDSS are the same, and we are correct. So that's all for my report. Thank you.